A very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Antara, and you're watching Point Break. The Indian government has changed how venture capital funds can access money committed under its rupees 10,000 crore fund of funds for startups. Now, under the revised structure, eligible funds can now access up to 25% of SIDBI's commitment against the first rupees 300 crore raised up to rupees 75 crore earlier than before. Now, that might sound technical, but the problem it is trying to solve is not. Government-backed capital has historically moved too slowly to match the pace at which venture funds need to invest. By the time the money arrived, the opportunity had sometimes passed. Now, funds struggled to use a SIDBI commitment as a credible signal to attract private capital because the disbursement was uncertain. Now, the new rules are trying to fix that. Along with Startup India Fund of Funds 2.0, a fresh rupees 10,000 crore scheme prioritizing deep tech, micro VCs, technology-led manufacturing, and startups with long R&D cycles. But at the same time, investors remain divided. Some believe faster government capital removes bottlenecks and encourages more specialized funds. Others argue that India doesn't really have enough venture-ready deep tech companies to absorb significantly more capital without compromising investment quality. So the question that we are trying to ask here today is this: can faster money break that cycle, or does it simply reach the same limited pipeline quickly? I'm Antara. This is Point Break. Let's get right into it. My two guests today are both inside this problem, one as one of India's earliest and most selective deep tech investors, and the other as someone who has just raised a major deep tech fund with SIDBI as one of the anchor backers. Manish Singhal is a technologist turned entrepreneur turned venture capitalist and founding partner of Pi Ventures, which is essentially India's deep tech focused VC fund that he started back in 2016. His approach, I believe, is extraordinarily selective, meeting over 1,100 companies to make 11 investments. And his portfolio includes Agnikul, which powered India's first controlled descent rocket. Manish, welcome to Point Break.
Thank you, Antara. Happy to be here.
Pleasure, Manish. And my second guest today is Anil Joshi, who is the founder and managing partner of Unicorn India Ventures, which recently closed its third fund at, I believe, rupees 1,200 crore, focusing on semiconductors, space tech, quantum technologies, and AI infrastructure. Anil, it's really good to have you on Point Break.
Thank you.
It's a true pleasure, gentlemen. All right, here's where I want to begin. Anil, SIDBI backed your latest fund. Manish, you've been investing in deep tech since before most people in India were really using the term. Both of you know this ecosystem very, very well. Now, does SIDBI's revised structure actually fix something, or would you say is capital availability really not the core problem here? Anil, if you want to start.
So, Antara, I think it's a progressive move from SIDBI. Just to substantiate, let's say SIDBI has approved 100 crore in a 1,000 crore fund, and fundraising cycle, which, for luckier one happens in 6 months, but some people take even 2 years. And in previous regime, while we have a sanction of 100 crore, the drawdown can only happen, the actual amount fund has raised. Wherein the new one, irrespective of what we have raised, we can, draw more capital out of the sanctioned one. So to give an example, let's say in previous one, we have an opportunity to invest in 10 crore. That's the probably contribution from SIDBI. But as fund has just raised 60%, we will be able to draw only, 6 crore out of it, right? But in new regime, I think we'll have an ability to draw down more and fulfill our investment commitment. So while we do have a pressure of raising money, closing money, with this new regime, at least, we will have an aim of not losing out on good opportunity, which probably we may have to say no because we don't have a required corpus to put in, or we may land up investing lesser amount. I think this new policy will certainly help all those new fund managers who are raising and cycles are longer. We have external factors which governs our fundraising cycle. So in my way, it's in a progressive and very helpful move from SIDBI.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Anil. Manish, you want to add?
Yeah, I agree largely. I think SIDBI has been a backbone LP for many homegrown funds in India, right? Sufficient capital gets raised in a fund from SIDBI typically. And um, if and all said and done, it's a government organization, partly government organization, and any operational um, improvements in the running of access of that fund structurally or operationally does help fund manager to move a bit more faster than otherwise. So definitely very welcome this change, and it's good to see that SIDBI is thinking about it. That how can they help fund managers to move a bit more. The operational changes are also welcome. In the last 2-3 years, we have seen that there is a better responsiveness to capital calls and closure of capital calls. So that is also good. So structural and operational changes, and if we can make them, more in line with what funds need, then it's always good. It leads to easier running of funds. And as Anil said, in the early stage of any fund, when you are not sufficiently committed, sometimes doing deals which you want to do, you can't do because you don't have enough capital committed. So that problem definitely gets addressed by this change, which is definitely very welcome.
Certainly, certainly. Thank you, Anil and Manish, for sharing that. The new graded structure gives venture funds earlier access to government-backed capital and makes SIDBI commitments more useful during initial stages of fundraising. Now, previously, a SIDBI commitment was valuable in principle, but often, like you were mentioning, too slow to be useful in practice. Anil, you just raised rupees 1,200 crore with SIDBI as an anchor. From direct experience, does earlier access to SIDBI capital genuinely help funds make investments sooner? And also, does a SIDBI commitment actually make it easier to attract private investors, or does the private market still sort of discount government-backed funds?
So, Antara, I have no hesitation in saying that yes, it certainly help. Incidentally, for many other institutional funds, SIDBI's approval also, stands a testimony for fund managers to raise. To give you an example, we got our approval for this 1,200 crore fund when we were at 400 crore, which took us to 500. And post we got this sanction, raising 700, was very fast for us. We in fact landed up, getting oversubscribed. And this, one single check, large check coming from institutes like SIDBI, because their process, is rigorous. They do thorough due diligence, do ref check on managers, kind of, portfolio they build and track record. So on a early approval from SIDBI with a almost 10, 15, in some cases 20%, part of the fund really help in much, much bigger way to all fund managers. And I'm a live example, right? Going from 4 to 5 and then 1,200 was really fast for us.
Certainly.
Right? So will certainly has really helped us, and I'm sure Manish would also have something to share on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, experience for us, right? We've raised from SIDBI in last two funds, and in the very first fund, because we were doing the first time, very new thesis, AI and deep tech, new words in the industry. So our initial movement actually happened because of SIDBI and a couple of early believers, and that helped us raise money. And I think this new regulation, I just want to point out another factor. One is a signaling mechanism, right? That you have SIDBI, then who else looks at it positively or otherwise. But the other part is if I can draw capital and start investing, then I am building a portfolio for that fund as well. Because as you know, deployment and fundraising do overlap for most funds for some time. And when I can show companies which are meaningful checks, meaningful ownerships, so I think that secondary effect of this early commitment should also help the fundraise going from first close to the final close. I'm assuming that if we get SIDBI commitment early in our fundraise journey, if it comes too late, of course, that may not be that helpful. But if it comes early, then this new regulation will help twice in two ways.
It's a very interesting point, Manish has brought in. In fact, I fully endorse that this early commitment really helps fund managers build their track record. And for some of the fund house or family offices or even fund of fund, if they see this early traction, really helps. It's a very valid point.
Absolutely. Also, another question that I have here: how should SIDBI demonstrate that faster drawdowns are actually translating into startup investments and not just sitting on fund managers' balance sheets? Because, and I'll tell you why I'm saying that, because that accountability question is one the public deserves an answer to. Anil, where do you land on that?
No, it's an important factor. At the end of the day, it's public money sanctioned by government entity, as rightly told by Manish, and the accountability is very important. Even we not only accountable to SIDBI alone, which is a public money, but we also have accountability to many other investors. In fact, every single investors who invest in the fund. One good part, every investors, do have their tracking mechanism. When SIDBI comes in, not only, it brings in money, but it also, helps keeping house in order, because we need to, follow regular updates, quarterly updates. And interestingly, they also, ask, certain ratios, which normally we do once a year or we do when it is required. But doing regularly also help us knowing the health of the fund. And that, also give us more confidence, because sometimes we ourselves, because in, pressure of raising money, as Manish told, that we also, run parallelly investing and then raising, investing and then raising. And, this discipline of, quarterly, MIS and information back to institutional investors, always help us, keep our house in order. So the chances of missing out, the chances of losing on accountability knowingly and unknowingly diminishes. Well, I think it's a money which not only come with a decent corpus, but will also brings in discipline and accountability on fund manager side. So it's an happy situation overall, if you ask me.
Certainly, Anil. Certainly.
Point, right? I think it is not going to get misused, because the difference between a drawdown and drawdownability. So what we're addressing is how much you can draw down. Each drawdown has to be backed by investment proposals, and they have a due process. Right. So you don't call this capital and it doesn't sit with you. You call capital on when you are making an investment. This, if my understanding of the regulation is correct, this just tells you how much capital you can call, which was earlier restricted to a lower amount.
All right. Thank you for that clarity, Manish and Anil. What I also want to talk about is whether capital really is India's biggest deep tech bottleneck, because deep tech founders need patient capital, but they also need labs and specialized talent, research institutions, intellectual property, and even customers willing to test unproven technologies. Now, you can solve the capital problem and still not have a functioning ecosystem. Manish, you've met over 1,100 companies to make 11 investments. That selectivity suggests that the pipeline is genuinely limited. And also, is India's deep tech problem a shortage of capital, or would you say it is a shortage of venture-ready companies?
Yeah. Actually, we've met a lot more than 1,100. We probably met 4,000, 5,000 companies easily in the last few years. There is a lot happening in deep tech today. And we've been doing deep tech for quite some time before people were actually looking at deep tech. And I can tell you one thing, that if our company is even doing, let's say, 50% of what they promised, right? They have not folded up because of lack of capital. And this is a very important observation for me to see. So right now we are in a hype cycle of deep tech. But I'm talking about this observation when deep tech was not even known as a word. So what does that mean? It means that money is available if you're doing good work. And that has not stopped even when this hype cycle was not there. Right? So we were always our companies were able to raise money even when deep tech was not hot. Right? So I think it brings down fundamentally to one thing, that are we building, from a startup perspective, are we building value for someone in a disruptive way and which is globally applicable? And if we are doing that, then the capital will come. Now, it's like a pyramid, right? So I'm answering your question in two ways.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? That it doesn't mean that all companies in deep tech should get funded, right? Then we will have an issue of other kind. So merit has to play a role. Therefore, it's a pyramid. So let's say only 1% of in general speaking, 1% of the companies typically raise venture fund, right? And then there is a pyramid, deep pyramid. But that 1% of 100 is 1 and 1% of 10,000 is whatever, right? So what I mean is that this extra capital, it has to encourage a lot of experiments at the grassroots level. It can come through labs, it can come through early smaller checks, then I can do these experiments. And when I have a lot more experimentation going at the bottommost level, then all levels up from there will benefit, and you will have a lot more companies which are doing good work and therefore raising.
Manish, I want to sort of build my next question on that. What separates an important research project from an investable deep tech startup? Because that distinction is where a lot of confusion comes into picture, and most of the misallocation of capital also takes place. So what is your take on that?
See, I think the goal is different, right? So I always say that ultimately a deep company exists not to solve a technology, but solve a business problem with the technology, right? So in a research project, that may not be the case. It may be solving a research for the sake of progressing that research. So at some point of time, a deep tech company will start looking like a business, right? Okay. And you can see those signs early on, right? And what the focus of the founders are, right? Are they solving for the sake of technology, or do they have a business problem in mind where their technology innovation can solve it so well that it will make a disruptive solution out of it, right? So that to me is the difference between the two.
All right. Thank you for that, Manish. And Anil, are Indian universities producing enough commercially transferable technology? Your Fund 3 portfolio includes companies led by academic founders, right? At least one full-time teaching professional. Would you say that academia is starting to, produce investable founders, or is that still an exception of sorts?
So interestingly, I was having a conversation 2 days back with someone, and the thing which emerged out, like if it's a college-led project and research, many time, prof is very interested in completing the project, but they are not keen, getting it commercialized, because their motive in life is, impart knowledge, build talent of the country and keep doing research, right? That's what excites them. Many cases, they don't want to get deviated from the, their core vision of talent building and imparting knowledge. Incidentally, I met, this morning somebody who's working on a very interesting solution in semiconductor industry. The entire research was done by a professor, and then he landed up passing on that research to one of his students who actually converted that into the product and already in business. So many cases, most of the research, and even patent get filed, but they lie in, closet, in file somewhere. Interestingly, last couple of years, the thought process of most of the colleges have changed, including all IITs and alike of IITs, where the institute top level have started insisting, and even government want that to happen, and that's the reason, some of the portion of RDI has been allocated for commercializing this research by institutes, right? And as you rightly said, we have a couple of companies where profs developed it, and then they partnered with entrepreneurs, and the product got commercialized. So this change is happening now, unlike in Western countries where where professors are actually involved in commercializing what they develop either solo or with their students. But in India, that not has been the case. But interestingly, now we are seeing that change to happen. In fact, most of the IITs have many examples where prof has developed some, project and went into filing some patent, and then they are also now building product out of it to commercialize it. So that's a recent phenomena, and it's a very happy phenomena for country, because it's not that India, lack innovative product. Only thing, nobody have made an attempt to commercialize that. We will fail
Right.
in many cases. But even if there is a success in 5 out of 100, I think country will achieve a lot.
Right.
Right? So that way, I think a lot of money will go in that phase, but the 5 will probably, will bring in, a lot of glory and happiness to, most of the, businesses.
Amen to that. Amen to
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
Manish, what critical ecosystem gaps, if any, cannot be solved by venture capital at all, if any?
Sure. I think, as I said, I'm a great believer of grassroots innovation. If someone has an idea in a university or otherwise, in deep tech, and when I'm saying deep tech, I'm specifically calling out that this is a physical startup, not a software deep tech company, right? Then I need access to where I can experiment with. I need lab, I need testing equipment, I need something more physical to test this idea out. Some of these equipments are very expensive, and venture funded companies till quite a few rounds cannot afford this equipment. Like live case is Agnikul itself, right? They have benefited a whole lot by their partnership with IIT Madras, and they were able to use their research facility labs in the initial days very extensively to get to where they are today. Now, if we are to build that outside by private capital, it would be too expensive. So I think one of the things that I really would love to see, and mind you that all our ISCs and IITs and NITs, we have so many colleges, they have this infrastructure somewhere lying over there. Right? The access is difficult. It's not very easy. Suppose I want to test something. It's not very easy for an entrepreneur to just go to one of these universities and say, I want to test this. There is no process for it, access for it. Right? So if we can figure out a way to make this access to some of these research facilities, test equipments, measuring equipments, etc., in a way which becomes easier for entrepreneurs to access, that will unlock a lot of value which VC's dollars just can't bring to you.
Absolutely, Manish. I also want to talk about this, and this might be an uncomfortable version of the so far optimistic story. Encouraging funds to accelerate drawdowns may improve capital availability, yes, but it could also create pressure to deploy money before suitable companies are even ready, and it creates an incentive for conventional businesses to rebrand as deep tech to even qualify for capital. Anil, could faster deployment targets weaken investment discipline? And also, what should fund managers do if they have government-backed capital but genuinely cannot, find strong enough companies to deploy it into? What happens then?
So, Anka, it's a very interesting question. But it is very unlikely that any fund manager will come in pressure and start deploying only because he has the money, he has the pressure, and will invest in any company. We do have our share of failures. I'm sure Manish would also have, his share of failures in his fund. But the objective is not, we know that we'll have some failures. But objective is not that I just deploy because I have money. We do invest in, just to pick up from the previous question. I think the one thing which VCs will lack uh, which Manish clarified very well,
Hmm.
is that we will never ever be able to support only research. I think we can help investment on product development which come out of some research. I think that failure probably will be able to take up,
Hmm.
but will not be able to invest in any idea which needs a lot of research and then go to product level. I think because
Okay.
we have a definite fund life,
Hmm.
and no fund manager ever will invest in a company because he has a deployment pressure.
All right.
The only exception would be that the company is doing good.
Mhm.
We know that there is a need for money, and the founder is unable to close next round with any other potential investor. Those are the only time when fund manager may have an exception
Hmm.
and deploy before anybody else come in, so that company's growth path is not jeopardized. And that bet may go right, may go wrong. That risk we will always carry,
Hmm.
because still the funding amount may be suboptimal.
Okay.
However, many fund managers take this calculated risk with the hope that the incremental performance shown by a company will help. Classic example, Agnikul is there, right? They never
Yeah.
stopped, and investors like Manish and peers who are co-investor with Manish kept on supporting this company, and that's the reason it's there where it is. Right? That risk I think we'll keep taking,
Okay.
but it's very unlikely that only because I have money,
Hmm.
access to money or money in bank.
Fair. All right, Anil and Manish, in the interest of time, I will wrap this segment. But before that, I also want to talk about this. Evaluating a deep tech company requires, I would say, scientific and industrial knowledge alongside, conventional financial expertise. Now, a fund manager with a strong financial track record but limited technical background may not be the right person to bet on, say, a quantum computing startup or a compound semiconductor company. Manish, what really qualifies a venture capitalist to, evaluate frontier technologies, and also should technical expertise matter as much as, a fund manager's financial track record when, SIDBI is allocating commitments?
It's an interesting question. I think, uh, of course, if you come from a background of technology, it is an added asset for you to understand technology a bit quicker when you're talking about to companies, or maybe you develop a point of view of how technologies will inflect at what point of time. So that gives you that edge. But I think we have enough examples. People who don't come from technology still make good investors in technology.
Hmm.
So uh, I would say investing is a bit of an art rather than total science, right? That you can put two and two together, and therefore, and I often say that most of the investments are not logical decisions; they are
Mhm.
actually illogical decisions, which is coming from a combination of your experience, gut, a bit of
Hmm.
understanding, bit of logic, bit of this and bit of that.
Hmm.
So overall, on on the other hand, having sound financial knowledge is also not a great asset to have when you
Hmm.
are doing deep tech investing,
Hmm.
uh, especially in early stages. So it's probably neither one of them or either
Okay.
one of them, but it is a skill of integrating multiple signals and then coming up with that point of view that okay, we can back this company,
Hmm.
which includes a view on founders, includes a view on technology, view on finance, how the business will build. And uh, if you have a certain leg up in any of these dimensions,
Right.
it will give you that added advantage, but it doesn't guarantee you to make a good
All right.
investment.
All right. All right. Also, more capital with the same limited pipeline could mean more competition for the same companies. Now, the real question is whether India can produce more deep tech startups that are genuinely investable. Anil, how do you think in India convert more university and laboratory research into startups? Because the gap between what Indian research institutions produce and what venture capital can invest is still very, very wide, I would say.
Mantra, it's a very interesting, question, and just picking up from the previous one.
Mhm.
I think interestingly, as you know, we have partnered with IIT Madras, or IIT Madras has partnered with us, and we are now doing a 1,000 crore fund. It's a pure deep tech fund.
Mhm.
IIT Madras has incubator, deep tech focus incubator, have a cohort of around 500 plus companies.
Mm.
Let's say with pinch of salt, 80% may not be ready for funding today, but 20% is also not a small number.
Fair.
If I take up the example of pyramid, which machines Manish took up, I put it in three buckets. That one, you have a bottom of pyramid where most of the companies from idea stage till, let's say, lab stage till getting to the production ready stage will fall in. Then the mid layer where they are ready with the product but now need to find the right market and grow. And then of course the top of the pyramid is a company which are really going good, like of Skyroot, or in some time Agnikul would be the there, right? I think today India is at a very unique juncture where a lot of money is available for bottom of the pyramid. And we may not have many in the mid segment, because this bottom of pyramid need to graduate to the mid layer, and then we can actually talk about. Interestingly, like IIT Madras, other IIT institutes have also started taking similar initiative what IIT Madras has taken, either themselves or in partnership with some. As you rightly said earlier, deep tech is a deep gestation. It may range anywhere from 4 year to 10 year. In some cases, maybe 10 plus. Right. So the thing which have just started probably may start showing result after 5 years. I say 5 years because that much time we would need to actually start seeing, some traction. The good part is that it has started. Now we cannot accelerate it because certain, technology needs, maturity to come in. It is time bound activity. It's not that money will solve that issue just by pumping in money. So I think we have to go through this phase. We don't have a choice, this front. But good part is that, like, the fund manager who are serious about deep tech, they have reasonable number of companies to invest in, and with technical institutes coming in, I think our life will become slightly easier. One point I would again bring in, which Manish rightly said, that most of the companies doesn't have access to these institutes, right? Agnikul leveraged because they had access. We also have one example where they were part of Indian Science Institute and they leveraged the infrastructure and were able to build product which many would not even be able to come to any stage in 10 years time because the equipments are so expensive. I think this new initiative by all IITians is actually open up many doors, at least on research side, and will make life a bit easier for entrepreneurs to go forward. We have to go through this phase. We don't have any shortcut, to pass through this.
Absolutely.
Money cannot solve the problem.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Anil. Manish and Anil, I do have one closing question before I let you go. If India lacks, enough laboratories, research, commercialization infrastructure, specialist investors, and first customers, will faster government money close the deep tech gap or simply reach, the same limited pipeline more quickly? What must India build first? What should it prioritize first here?
Manish, you want to take up?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yes, please.
I think we're in a rush. We cannot be in a rush. So what I mean is, to build this ecosystem, probably we need a decade, right? And I believe you give it 5 to 10 years, India will be on the global deep tech map of the world. There is no doubt in my mind. So what do we need to do? We need to do a few things apart from the capital. Capital is a very important cog in the entire machine, but there are other things that we need to do, which actually government is very well placed to do, right? One is what I talked about, opening up this access in some way or building established hubs where people can access physical equipment. The other is regulatory. I think regulation-wise, we have seen several transformations and things changing, but still there are many things in our country which take a long time to do. For example, I'll give you, if you are to take a new drug trial, right? it typically takes 9 months to a year to just get an approval to start a trial. Uh, I think there are pros and cons of accelerating that as well, but then can it be made more efficient? So I think what I ask is that we Indians are good at many things, but we are not good at prioritizing efficiency in what we do. So government, private, whichever way, right? If we have to put efficiency on top, and then things will actually fall in place, but it will still take 5-10 years to sort of become a true deep tech nation.
All right. Anil, your perspective?
I'll add here. I fully agree with Manish on this, and that's what I actually try to impress on, that it's a decade, from time perspective. Interestingly, India, took lot many initiative. I'm talking about at government stage, immediately after COVID. I think COVID, opened up lot many questions which government was trying to find answer to it. And even, this current situation of, geopolitical conflict has also made India think differently on their energy need. Interestingly, we may also, add energy also one of the promising segment in deep tech in time to come, because government have realized that this cannot be stored, and this cannot be, parked and wait for, others. I think we need to build self-reliance. What has happened in last 5 years is that many segments have got opened, namely space. Look at Skyroot wouldn't have happened if that was not the case. Semiconductor, we wouldn't have been talking about any chip company if government wouldn't have taken any initiative 5-6 years back. Not only from the policy perspective, but government actually has helped up bringing lot many IP libraries for all those entrepreneurs who don't have money to pay for it. Right? Government has opened up access to colleges, which Manish has rightly pointed out. Look at drone companies were struggling, and today India probably not is there, but I think with time to come, we'll have really good drone companies to compete with best in worlds. Look at quantum. The quantum mission going on, and there are at least I know 60 plus companies. It's not a small number. Like if VCs are not able to find a meaningful investment in the 60 lot, I think probably we may need to correct our house at our end, but it's not that it's not there, because no quantum company is going to give you result immediately. So you grow as the vertical or space grows. So I think government has taken many initiative, not only at policy level but also funding, which we are talking about. Right, that's the topic for our discussion today. Government has, I think, have done their piece. Now it's up to founders or entrepreneurs and people like us, how well we can leverage it to speed up in true sense. I think the catalytic part has been done. Now it's in our hand to see we navigate it to the right success path. It still needs time. I am not saying that we will be able to demonstrate in couple of years. We ourselves will take time, and that's the reason our new fund is 10-year fund. We know that we don't have a quick fix solution there. So initiatives have been taken, but we have to wait for it to fructify.
All right, Anil, thank you for that. Anil and Manish, thank you for this very, very candid conversation, I would say. And for everybody who is tuned in right now and watching this segment, ladies and gentlemen, the SIDBI change is real. The intent behind Startup India Fund of Funds 2.0 is serious, but faster money reaching a thin pipeline is not the same as a deep tech ecosystem. The capital problem and the pipeline problem are both real, and solving one without the other may produce very, very expensive disappointment. So we will stay tuned on that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Antara. This is Point Break. I'll see you again next episode.